everyone. We would like to welcome each and every one of you in our session for today. And I'm going to discuss the authorization and recognition procedures. So let me give you the context of our topic. I know you have been informed regarding this. So the context is the learning service providers or the DEPED and non-DEPED entities. So the DEPED entities are CO bureaus, services units, regional offices, schools division offices. So DEPED entities will not go through the authorization anymore, but they will go through the recognition of their proposed professional development program or courses. However, non-debit entities, or what we call external learning service providers, they need to go through the authorization before they could be allowed to propose or to submit a professional development program or courses for recognition. So to start with, our terminal objective for this session, at the end of the session, the participants will understand the whole authorization and recognition procedures in details. Yeah. And our enabling objectives to discuss purposes, requirements, and process flow. And the second one is to determine the role of subcommittees under the authorization and recognition. So I'll start with the authorization first. So for whom? Who are going to apply for authorization? So as what I have mentioned earlier, these are for external learning service providers. So non-debit entities seeking to offer professional development programs and or courses for teachers and school leaders. So if they want to offer technical assistance, partnership, or it could be an individual paid enrollment basis. So what is the purpose? Why do they need to go through the authorization? Okay, number one or first, we want them to provide us information or to establish information about their company profile, their legal personality, and of course, the capacity to implement high quality and responsive PD programs and or courses. So the external learning service providers have non-negotiable requirements. So if they are an individual or sole proprietorship, so these are the non-negotiable requirements. BIR, business permit number, DTI registration number, NBI clearance number, and main sources of revenue. So we are expecting that they are going to attach these documents in their accomplished form. If they are a firm, partnership, or a corporation, so SEC registration number and with its date of incorporation. Okay, likewise, BIR, business permit number, main sources of revenue. If they are a government institution or agency, so here are the non-negotiable requirements. Type of charter or Republic Act and the date of establishment, main sources of revenue. So don't worry because somebody will discuss the application form, so we will understand all the more what is the relevance of all these non-negotiable requirements. So in order for us to understand the authorization procedures and for us to remember easily the subcommittees, I will introduce 4 characters slash subcommittees, except number one. So number one is not not part of the subcommittee of the authorization committee. So just introducing the character, it will help us to understand the flow chart later on. So first, we have character number one, authorization applicant, where they are the external learning service providers. Second is the secretariat. Third, authorization evaluation committee. And fourth, authorization approval committee. So do not uh, be confused. Just remember AEC, so E, evaluation, AAC, A, approval. So let's start now with the authorization process flow. So let's have the character number one, external learning service provider applicant. The external learning service provider applicant needs to know three things, okay, before applying for the authorization. So shall do, okay. So this is maybe not a mandatory, but it will really help if they will follow doing these three things before applying for the authorization. First, familiarize themselves with the professional standards and current DepEd professional development priorities. So, what are the professional standards? So, just like what the speakers in the previous sessions discussed. So, the professional standards are the Philippine Professional Standards for Supervisors, okay? The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, and the Philippine Professional Standards for School Heads. So if this external learning service provider wants to cater supervisors, then they are going to look at the professional standards for supervisors. If it's teachers, so or if they are teachers, so of course the PPST, and if they are school heads, so PPSSH. And the current professional development priorities. So it was issued last May 4th, 2020, DepEd Order number 50, series of 2020. Yes. So the current professional development priorities uh, is for 2020 to 2023. Yeah. So they need to familiarize themselves to these two important things. Second, so when they are already convinced that they already familiarize themselves, they could request a face-to-face or online orientation. So the face-to-face or online orientation, or the orientation itself, could happen if, okay, the external learning service provider could send a request letter addressing to the office of the director of the National Educators Academy of the Philippines. So like they are the one who's sending a request letter and telling them that they want to have an orientation on this specific date. Okay, it could be done. Then once NAIAP received the request letter, so we could settle, or we could talk about it. Like, okay, NAIAP could make it, so let's push it. However, if the schedule won't won't permit, then NAIAP will set a schedule or orientation for the external learning service provider. So um, as of now, we are planning to have an external learning service providers orientation. So maybe when NAIAP will set a schedule for an orientation, so it could be released through, or it could be announced through a memorandum. Then how about the online orientation? So basically we have We could do this, the online orientation, but for now, the PDIS, sorry, not Philippine, the PDIS, this is Professional Development Information System, is not available for now because the IT team is in the process of finalizing the program, and they are about to conduct the beta testing. So because of the pandemic, it is quite affected, but we will launch it very soon, the PDIS po. So for now, let us embrace the manual. So we are going to send a request letter, the external learning service provider, or NAIA will set a schedule for an orientation. Then, number three or step three, they need, so of course, after familiarizing themselves, then they already requested an orientation, and the schedule is settled. So attend a face-to-face or online orientation. Okay, so what are we going to discuss in that orientation? So um, we are going to talk about here the relevance of adhering, you know, to the professional standards, and of course the current professional development priorities, and to explain furthermore, or to explain further the processes. So if an external learning service provider will be authorized, what will happen next? If not, what will happen? Like that. So it will be very helpful because they will be guided accordingly. They know what's the next step. They know what do they need to do, or what do they need to accomplish if ever that there will be some unexpected circumstances. Yeah. See? So here, I'll introduce now the authorization flow chart. So here, the external learning service provider, so start, and there are three things that an external learning service providers need to know. So in this circle, these are the internal processes or steps that they should do. Okay, so of course after attending the orientation, they could apply for authorization, and they will accomplish learning service provider authorization application form, or what we call Form 2020A.1. So that is the same. So they need to accomplish that, and also to attach the evidence of non-negotiable requirements. So earlier I have shown the non-negotiable requirements, and we are expecting that these non-negotiable requirements are maybe scanned or photocopied, so that it will prove, well, it's easy to put number po kasi, like the number of my BIR is like this, diba? But how sure are we that that is the number of that particular learning service provider, registered external learning service provider? So that is the reason why really we want a photocopy as an evidence. So where can we find the application form? So we could find it po in our NAIA microsite. So it is in DepEd website as well. And if you don't have the link, so here po, http deped.gov.ph/naip/lsp.html. Okay, you can download the application form here. And step 5. So once all the documents are ready, and they already accomplished the form, so submit the requirements for authorization. So again, they could submit it, or yeah, to NAIAP central office. And again, we have the PDIS, but for now, we will not consider this because they are in the process of um, checking everything. So our options are, we could send it to NAIAP central office, or send it through email po at asknaip@deped.gov.ph. Okay. So external learning service provider. So we have the accomplished 2020 8.1 learning service provider authorization application form with its required documents. So after the role of the external learning service provider, let's have now the secretariat. So the secretariat's role will be seen here. So let's assume that it's already in NAIAP, okay? So check the submitted external learning service provider's documents. So the accomplished Form 2020 8.1, so uh, are all the required documents ay naka-attach, because if not, Secretariat will return it right away. And for the authorization, we only have one resubmission. So, well, that's reasonable, I guess, because they already attended the orientation. So in the orientation, somebody explained the processes, the requirements. So I think one resubmission is very reasonable na po. Okay, so after the secretariat checks, or after the secretariat checked the submitted external LSP's documents, so here's what will happen. Then NAIAP Secretariat checks completeness of Form 2028.1 and its required documents. If it's complete, yes. Okay. So we have a legend here for us to follow easily. Where is the successful one, or where is the unsuccessful one? So if it's successful, blue. If it's unsuccessful, red po. So if it's successful, upon checking of the secretariat, okay, or by the secretariat, so this is the arrow. But if not, okay, but if not, the NAIAP Secretariat returns application form to LSP for re-accomplishment. So the chance of submitting only once is not counted here yet. It will be counted once the recognition evaluation committee receive the application. So here, then the first no here is not, or is not yet counted. So right after that the secretariat saw that the required documents have missing part, or missing, pieces, just no, missing. Okay, if there are missing documents, so NAIAP secretariats will return it to LSP for accomplishment. Okay, so let's assume that it's already complete. That is why let's go here for the yes. Authorization Evaluation Committee's role will be played here now. Okay. So after the NAIAP Secretariat checked the submitted documents, Authorization Evaluation Committee's role now is to evaluate the external LSP's documents. So accomplished, they will evaluate the accomplished form 2020 attach required documents, the evidence, and they will use for 2020 the authorization evaluation tool. Okay, so for the attach required documents, so maybe the evaluator will validate or will call or will ask the BIR, or if I don't know, but there will be a validation if all the non-negotiable requirements are really true, and yeah, like really they need to validate it in to say it in a simplest way. So validation will really happen here. So let's have the flow chart. So yes, so Authorization Evaluation Committee AEC members evaluate Form 2020 8.1 using Form 2020 8.2 evaluation form for authorization of learning service provider. So here we have the accomplished Form 2020 8.2 already. Then Authorization Evaluation Committee will deliberate the initial evaluation result. So in the evaluation, in the step 7, evaluate the external, the submitted document of the external LSP. That is an individual evaluation of the evaluator. So we have 3 evaluators, okay, and and they are going to evaluate it individually first. And in the step 8, they will deliberate the initial evaluation results. So NAEP AEC leads, so there will be a leader, consolidates and deliberates the individual evaluation result of the evaluator. And after having the agreement that, yeah, okay, so this is approved, this is disapproved, and all, NAEP AEC lead endorses the initial evaluation results to AAC approval committee for approval or disapproval through the Secretariat. So this approval might happen already here. Maybe the authorization evaluation committee will realize that, oh, we cannot approve this external learning service provider and all, because, so do not worry, because that's the purpose of the deliberation. We really want to have an evidence so that when we give the result to the external learning service provider, we have enough evidence, we have reason why why do we come, or how do we come up to this decision. So why through the Secretariat? Because in step, okay, later on I'll explain. So here is the flow chart. So we have the accomplished form 2020 8.2. Then AEC head leads AEC members in the consolidation and deliberation of the evaluation results using Form 2020 8.3 authorization endorsement. So yung for Form 2020 8.3 is the content of the authorization endorsement is the strong in deliberated initial evaluation result of the evaluator. So why we are using initial? Because we want to give emphasis here that um, the evaluation committee, the evaluation committee is not giving the final result. So they are just endorsing an initial evaluation result. But at the end of the day, it's still the approval committee who's going to decide, because there is also a deliberation with the authorization approval committee. So now we have the accomplished form 2020 8.3, and if they complied, so yes, and if they didn't, okay, no, so red box. So here, why does the result, okay, why does the result of AEC, okay, will uh will be forwarded to Secretariat first? Because the Secretariat, so there is already a result, right, from AEC, if it's approved or disapproved. So the Secretariat will draft the authorization certificate or notice. Authorization certificate is for those external LSPs who uh, who passed the initial um, evaluation of the AEC. Yan. If if they don't, yan, sa AEC pa lang, Secretariat will draft a notice. So authorization certificate. And what's the content of authorization certificate? So the content of the authorization certificates is, of course, we are acknowledging that they pass our evaluation. Then we are going to give them a unique authorization number valid for 3 years. So um the authorization number should be put in the authorization certificate. Now, nevertheless, if the external learning service providers won't pass, so the Secretariat will draft, okay, the authorization notice, so that when the Secretariat endorses the form 8.3, right, the authorization endorsement, together with the authorization certificate, or if it's an authorization notice, then it's already a complete. So endorse the deliberated initial evaluation result. So i-endorse yung accomplished authorization endorsement template. Yan, authorization endorsement, accomplished authorization endorsement, then unsigned authorization certificate, of course, or unsigned authorization notice for those who didn't pass the AEC, or who didn't pass in the evaluation committee. So here is the flow chart. So if it's no, here, NAIAP Secretariat drafts notice with reasons of non-compliance. So drafted authorization certificate, uh, drafted authorization notice, then authorization approval committee will deliberate and make decisions for final authorization results. So regardless of either pumasa siya kay evaluation committee or hindi, dadaan pa rin siya kay approval, and approval committee will need the approval committee needs to deliberate and make decisions for final authorizations. So pwede pa din kung no, may pag-asa pa din. Okay. Pero we really encourage the evaluation committee to provide evidence why that is the reason why it's not just like yes or no. We really need to validate and provide evidence. If it's yes, so NAIAP Secretariat's drafts authorization certificate with NAIAP authorization number. Then here we have the drafted authorization certificate with NAIAP authorization number. Then authorization approval committee deliberates and make decisions for final authorization results. Yan. So, even if it's already yes then po kay evaluation committee, pwede rin na ma-disapprove siya kay approval committee. So, what we are just trying here to show in the authorization flow chart is really, what will happen if it's yes or no. But within the processes of, of this flow, may mga provisions pa po siya. So here, Authorization Approval Committee, so deliberate the endorsed initial evaluation result. So what are they going to deliberate? So the content of authorization endorsement, okay? And of course, if they if they failed, so noticed. Then step 12, approve the final evaluation result. So sign the authorization endorsement, sign the authorization certificate, okay, and if not, sign authorization notice. And step 14, babalik ulit siya kay Secretariat. Secretariat will release the final evaluation result. So the signed authorization endorsement, signed authorization certificate with its unique number, valid for 3 years. And if it's failed, signed authorization notice. Yan. So the good thing na lagi siyang dumadaan kay Secretariat so that Secretariat could monitor po what happened, the Secretariat could document. Yan. Siya yung merong information of everything. Okay. And so here, if it's approved, kay approval committee, if it's no, authorization approval committee signs the notice. Yan. Diba? Kasi, meron namang pinasa na ni Secretariat yung endorsement, diba po? Endorsement, authorization endorsement. So, nag-deliberate niya yun, si approval. So, if it's no, authorization approval committee signs the notice. Then, external LSP receives notice from NAIAP Secretariat, waits for the next call for authorization. So they could still send their application, but they need to wait for the next call for authorization. And if it's yes, so there will be an authorization signed authorization certificate. The NAIAP Secretariat releases authorization certificate full of authorized learning service providers. So, hindi na po i-release ni NAIAP Secretariat yung result yung endorsement, yung signed authorization endorsement. Kasi para lang naman din talaga yun kay approval. So, malalaman lang ni external learning service providers na nakapasa siya kung meron siyang authorization certificate with the authorization number. If naman hindi siya nakapasa, dun sa notice, sasabihin naman po dun bakit, ano yung mga dahilan. So, kasi may mga evidence din naman siya. Para din, di ba, para fair sa lahat and guided din, di ba? Guided din and nabigyan din ng feedback so that in the next, call for authorization, they could comply completely dun sa lahat ng mga requirements. So here is the complete flow chart. And now, okay, for those external learning service providers who received authorization certificates, so we will call them authorized learning service provider. And this is the only time that they could submit professional development program or course proposals. Yan. Because in the application of the recognition application form, they need to put their authorization number. It's a requirement. Okay, so unique authorization number. Then if our PDIS will be okay na po, that's the only time that they could have access on PDIS. Yan, pag na-authorize na po sila. And they can offer PD program and course na. Pero si DepEd, since automatic siya na authorized, meron na siyang access sa PDIS. Gagawan siya ng account ni IT team ng PDIS. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation for the authorization. And if you have questions or clarifications, just don't forget to write it down and send it in our um, instructions later on how to send your questions or clarification. So that's all for the authorization, and I'm going to discuss the recognition for a while or in a while. Thank you so much po